All right, guys. Hello and welcome to the first episode of I call it the V Talk. There's so much hog talk out there. There's so much dick talk out there. And we don't talk about women. We don't talk about the vagina that much. So couldn't obviously call it vagina monologues because that's already taken. So I thought V Talk was perfect. So the first guest is none other than one of my really, really good friends, Christina. I didn't think of anybody that could start off this series more perfect than you. So first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you. We've been talking about it, so it's nice to actually get on and do it.
Yes, I know. Mom life, work life, just crazy, busy schedules and that kind of stuff. So if you could just give us like a quick little, 90 seconds of who you are, a little bit about you before we kind of really dive into it.
It's such an interesting question because I'm figuring out who I am
Right.
in this transition of life. I guess I'll tell you who I was to who I am.
Love that.
I'm Christina. I'm a clinical nutritionist. I'm a former gym owner. We owned a brick and mortar facility right in smack dab center, New York State. My husband and I for 10 plus years, and we just sold it. It's actually be a year in August. And I, through, I'm sure a lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about today, have really transitioned into helping women through miscarriage support and understanding the truth about their bodies because we've been lied to for far too long. So that's kind of the space that I'm in right now, is really being a educator, women's health supporter, women's health advocate to help you learn the truth about your body.
Yeah. And isn't that amazing though? Because we're supposed to just kind of know, but we don't know. They don't teach us, first of all. And when you ask questions about women's health, you don't really get answers. So for you, when was the first time that you realized that you don't really know shit about your own health as a woman?
2021, when I had my first miscarriage, because I got off of birth control and 3 months later got pregnant and 6 weeks later miscarried. And that really opened, the best way I can describe it is like this underground world.
Yeah.
That just opened up. And I guess even more so, even after my second miscarriage, was really like, what? Like, I don't know anything about my period, my cycle. I was on birth control, what it depletes, what it does. That's really where I guess I would say it got almost like more frustrating of like, why the hell don't we know this? Why were we not taught any of this? Was really kind of in that, I guess, 2021 to 2022 timeframe where I was like, this is so wrong. This is so wrong that we don't know anything about our bodies as women.
Yeah. And you said that you've been on birth control, and I've shared a little bit of your story just in conversation. You obviously are very open on your Instagram about your personal journey with your miscarriages and stuff like that. And I love that you brought up the birth control because that's kind of where I want to start. For you got on birth control when you were a teen because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you were diagnosed with PCOS.
Yeah. To only later, after getting off birth control and having my first miscarriage, for them being like, you never had PCOS. Like, what?
So what does that conversation look like? Yeah, when you go in there and, the birth control conversation kind of comes up and this PCOS kind of comes up, like, can you take us back? Like, did you go in because you were having difficulties with your period? Were you not feeling well? Like, how did you kind of go into the office and then all of a sudden get diagnosed with PCOS and then they're handing you some birth control and saying, this is going to help everything?
Yeah. So I was 13. I went in with my mom because I was 13.
Crazy.
And I got my period pretty young. I think I must have been 12-ish when I got my period. And as you know, as a dancer yourself, I was a dancer. I had a bad relationship with food. I was working out, dancing. I played basketball and softball too, like a lot of lifestyle stuff going on. And my period was irregular. So two things with that. One, it's normal for your period when you first get it to be irregular up to 1.5 years to 2 years. And then second, again, the things I just mentioned, lifestyle wise, I was probably 95 pounds soaking wet. But no one talked about that, right? That has nothing to do with your period.
Of course not.
It does.
It has nothing to do with that.
So because I had nothing. So because I did have regular periods throughout that year, I guess my mom also had irregular periods too, but she was never, like back then, was never, talked about, discussed, diagnosed, nothing. But because I had irregular periods for that first year, which again can be normal, we went to the gynecologist. So I didn't have any like pain, nothing like that. The only thing was that my period was irregular after just getting it within that first year. Gotcha. And they brought me in for an internal ultrasound because they wanted to see if I had the string of pearls, like the cysts around your ovaries, which is one of, I want to say one or 4 or 5 factors, like check boxes of PCOS. They didn't do any blood work, nothing like that, but I did have this string of pearls around my ovaries when they did the internal ultrasound. And that was that. That was their confirmation that I had PCOS. And the only fix for that, so they said, was to go on birth control. I didn't know any better at the time, right? Like I had no education around that. I was like, okay, doc, cool. Like that's what we do. Same thing with my mom. Like we just, neither of us had that background to ask. You just kind of assume the doctor has your best interest, assume that they know what they're talking about. And that was it. I literally, from 13 to 33 was on birth control straight through.
Amazing. Just and amazing, not in the way of like, that's great. Amazing of like mind blowing. Like, and I've talked about this a lot too, is like, we trust our parents, first of all, that they know best and that they have been successful and they know things. So when they share things with us, we're like, oh, they know because they learned from, their parents before or doctors before. And so you just trust the people that that they have all of that information. And then especially when you go to the doctor says one thing and you're like, okay, like you said, of course they're going to have the best interest for me to be successful, down the line. So I've got 2 questions with that. One, did you and your mom ever have like the period talk before you got your period?
No, I don't believe we did. I very distinctly remember getting my period that morning, and like I had band at the time, used to happen before school started. Mm-hmm. And I played clarinet at the time. So I remember sitting at the top of the stairs. She was like in the shower or something, getting ready to take me to school. And we kind of like had that talk literally in the moment. I don't remember anything talking before, honestly.
Yeah, because I never had that talk either. It was kind of like you get it, and then all of a sudden you get it. And literally the conversation was, these are pads, start here. And then you later on learn about, you later on learn about, oh my God, I can't think of them right now. Tampons. You learn about tampons later on. But I think we learned about them because of dance. Like you needed to learn how to put a tampon in because you can't be wearing pads. I experienced that where I bled through, my costume on stage, and it's traumatizing and all this type of stuff. And, but I never was taught how to use a tampon. I was kind of like, I don't want to wear pads anymore. And so I figured out how to, use the tampon and put a tampon in incorrectly more times than not in the middle of school, more times than not. And, but like they don't teach you any of that. Even the OGBYN doesn't even teach you. Your primary care doctor doesn't even have these conversations with you of like, sweetheart, your body is about to change and it's going to change a lot. And here are some things that are going to happen when it changes. And the fact that you said that it's common for your periods to be irregular for the first year and some change after you get it is not something that I have ever heard. And I'm in my 30s. So when you learned that, were you like, wait a second. So I didn't need to be on birth control at all when I first started because it was normal that the body's hormones are changing. You know what I mean?
I mean, I didn't really connect any of those dots until I got off birth control and had my first miscarriage. Because after that first miscarriage, rewind a little bit, obviously I've always been interested in not obviously, we owned a gym. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a dancer, right? Like, I love the body. So for my own interest, after I got off birth control, so again, I'm like 32, 33 here, I ordered a Dutch test, which is like the dried urine analysis, just to see where my hormonal levels were. So I was really interested of kind of thinking both ways. One, hey, my periods were irregular before, so let's kind of see what that looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, I do want to have kids in the future, so let's just see what it looks like. So I ordered the test, I took the test, but the results are really complicated and they were over my head to analyze. So after my first miscarriage, I brought that test to the doctor. And I was like, hey, do you think, me having PCOS had anything to do with a miscarriage? And can you also look at this test that I did right when I got off birth control and before I got pregnant and check it out? And she said two things. She said, oh, sweetie, you never had PCOS, so I'm sorry you've been operating under that. I was like, what? Then why was I on birth control? And then two, she wouldn't even look at the test. She quote unquote said it's too woo-woo and that is inaccurate, which is complete BS. If you've heard of Dutch tests before, they are very, very scientifically proven. I guess not in her world. So she wouldn't even look at it. So I was left just frustrated, like so frustrated, like what? And it had me questioning, like, you just told me I didn't have PCOS. So then why have I been on birth control for literally 20 plus years? Mm-hmm. I ended up, after my second miscarriage, hiring a naturopathic doctor, and we ran everything and anything. We ran many markers to determine if I had PCOS, and I didn't. So did I when I was 12, 13? And, things changed as I actually went through puberty, kind of falsely through puberty with birth control? Mm-hmm. Maybe. But like, it's just so frustrating to think that I might have been misdiagnosed. It might have just been, hey, I needed a little bit more time for my cycle to regulate. And I could have potentially avoided 20 plus years on birth control, depleting nutrients, which I know I can't prove it, but I really, really, really believe that contributed to my miscarriages.
Because being on the birth control.
So many. Yeah, right. I mean, it's going to deplete you of so many nutrients that I had no idea even happened. So I didn't support my body to build those back up. Mm-hmm. Right. It's going to play a factor on my gut health. It's going to play a factor on my inflammation. It's going to play a factor on my liver. Right. I'm taking something every single day that's burdening an already burdened liver. Mm-hmm. Like again, I don't have proof to say like, this is what it is. I'm never going to know, but it's just always in the back of my head of like, be so interesting. What would have happened if I knew a little bit more, or I was educated more, or I didn't take birth control for 22 plus years. And I do want to say I feel like every time I have this conversation, they're like, you're anti-birth control. Like, I'm not anti-birth control. I'm not anti-anything. I just want you to be educated.
You're pro-education. Yes.
Right, like, I just want you to have all your cards on the table, because birth control, while it can be very, very helpful for some women, especially if there's, like immediate or chronic pain that you're having to kind of like get you through a time period, but you're still doing the digging to see what's going on with the root cause. But, I just want you to have all your playing cards on the table, because with PCOS, there are so many lifestyle factors, what's going on with your blood sugar, what's going on with your insulin, your food, your lifestyle, your stress. I didn't know any of that. Like, there's so many things that you can manipulate lifestyle wise if I did have PCOS to potentially help that, right, versus here's birth control. I'm not going to tell you anything about the rest of the playing cards. Here's your only option. Like, that to me, it's not fair. It's like uninformed consent.
Yeah. And that's the big conversation now, which I think, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this little series or whatever, is because it's so taboo to talk about so many things when it comes to women. You can talk about the birth control, the IVF, the abortion, all these things that are surrounding women. And just because you start talking about them and you start sharing your personal experience or your personal beliefs, everybody thinks that you're so anti this. And it's like, I'm not anti anything. At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want with your body. I think that is the beauty and the freedom that we have as women in this country. And many generations before us have fought for us to be able to do that. We have that freedom. But give us the information Like, just explain what's going to happen. And I've learned so much just from watching your story, because when I was younger, I was on birth control for a little while, when I was dating this guy in high school, and I literally got on it because for protection, to not get pregnant. And that literally was the only reason that I was on it. And that's really the only reason that I really learned that people were on
Right.
it, and teens were on it. But then as I grew up a little bit more within my teens and in my 20s, it's like people are on it for acne. People are on it for irregular periods, all of these things. And it's like, okay, but where's the actual information? And I've learned from you that you essentially were having synthetic fake periods for 20 something years, thinking that you were having regular periods and it was just helping you stay regular. And so for you, when you found that out, like how pissed off were you that you just didn't have any information?
I feel like I went through a grieving process after my second miscarriage. I kind of went through like the stages of grief. Like after my first miscarriage, I was really sad. Like rug got pulled out from underneath me. Oh my God, how can this ever happen? Second time, I was like, what the F? Like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. I wasn't getting any help. What is going on? So that I feel like I really went through, right? I took like a really deep dive into my health. And I feel like I almost went through puberty in my 30s.
Oof.
That I should have gone
Tough.
through.
In your 30s, tough.
And I was so angry because I was like, this shouldn't have happened. Like I should not be figuring out all this and feeling these things and blah, 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 blah. Like this should have happened in the chronological time frame of when you go through puberty. So like I was really dealing with that for a while, and the anger that came with it. And I've been able to switch from anger to now more sympathetic, like we need education, which is why I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah.
Right? Because learn from me, whatever you want to say, like learn from the people ahead of you. If there's things that you can do to optimize your health, to feel better without having to mask it. Because that's really what happened. And what also would make me angry too is every year when I would go back for my annual appointment, I did have my mom chirping in my ear after a couple of years of like, should you really be on this that long? Can you ask, if anything? And I was always like, it's fine, Mom. It's fine. It's fine. So I'll give her credit. She was chirping in my ear. But do you listen to your mom when you're 16?
No,
Please. You don't.
No,
you don't. So, and every time I went, they were just like, well, do you want to get pregnant? And I was like, again, 16, 17, 18. I was like, no, but I'm not on this for pregnancy. Like I'm on it because my periods are irregular. But that was kind of dismissed. And they're like, if you don't want to get pregnant, just stay on it until you do. And I was like, all right, whatever. It's easy. Sure. Fine. And that's it. Right. I stayed on it. And then you get off of it and it's a mess. And you're like, then panic also sets in, because for me, I had, again, the 2 miscarriages. So by the time I went through the second miscarriage, I was 34. And then you start panicking because you're like, oh my God, I want to have kids. I want to have more than one kid. I'm 34. How long is this going to take me to get pregnant? I have to figure out my hormones, what's going on. If I don't have a period, if I miscarry again, right? And then this is like emotional, mental spiral because you feel like you're on a time limit of I have to have kids before I'm 40 and my eggs expire, which also doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we all feel that. That type of pressure too. Madeline, here for the V. Love it. We're all here for the V. Get the V talk in. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to that kind of stuff, like why, and this is just your own personal opinion. Again, this is not making you anti-doctor, anti-this, anti-anything like that. But why do you personally feel, you've gone through experiences a lot with different doctors and stuff like that, why do you feel like they don't make the time to actually talk to us about this kind of stuff, about what actually birth control is and why, or not why, but what birth control is, what are the reasons you could use it, and then actually listing and explaining to young girls and women and parents or whatever, like all of these side effects by taking it. At the end of the day, you're still going to make your own choice. And if a girl looks at her mom and is like, my periods are absolutely insufferable, I need this, but at least you have all the information. Why don't you think they give the time to any of us to actually give us the information?
I think the healthcare system in and of itself, I was just talking to my husband about this, is just so broken. Or I think it's so broken on so many levels. Doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, everyone is so overworked. They're probably underpaid. They're probably trying to jump through insurance hoops. They probably have so many, like such a busy patient load that they literally don't have the time to spend with you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's right at all, right? But I think that, and also I think it's a quick fix. I think it's like this person, or I'm trying to think like from the fitness sense.
Yeah.
Right. The person wants the goal. There's a couple ways to get to the goal. One is to do the hard work, to do a lot of digging, a lot of changes, a lot of lifestyle changes, emotional changes, habit changes. And that takes a lot of work. And it takes a long time.
A lot of
long time, right?
And patience. And none of us have patience.
Yeah. And none of us have patience. We want it now. If I can lose 20 pounds now and I can do it in 6 weeks, I want to do it in 6 weeks. I don't want to do it in a year.
Right.
Okay. Well, shortcuts might need to happen to get there. Mm-hmm. I think the same concept kind of happens when it comes to the medical space. It's like, hey, here's my said problem. There's 2 routes to get there. Mm-hmm. I can give you this. Let's just talk birth control, because that's what we're talking about. I can give you this birth control that will almost immediately fix said problem. Or we can do a lot of blood work, a lot of testing, a lot of lifestyle changes, and it's going to take you, I don't know, a year to get there. Mm-hmm. The birth control sounds tempting. I get it.
Yeah.
Right? It fixes the problem immediately.
Yep.
It doesn't, but
yeah.
So I just think that also, like, as a practitioner sense, you're like satisfying the patient immediately versus having them come back time after time and saying, I'm frustrated, or this doesn't feel good, or this is still painful, and what's the next thing I can take? And I think a lot of it also comes to that, is they know that they can solve the problem really quickly and move on to the next, or satisfy your need versus getting to the root cause, versus taking a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I mean, working, like, for example, for me, when I worked with a naturopathic doctor, and we just had this conversation the other day, I felt worse throughout that year more than I did better.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have to go through that. Sometimes it does have to get worse before it gets better to figure stuff out. But I don't think a lot of people would take the time to do that, because it kind of sucked. Like, not gonna lie, right? You know, like it kind of sucks. So
yeah, it really does, especially, it really does, especially when, again, we're all fucking impatient. We're so impatient, and going through what I'm going through, finally taking a break from my doctor or my nutritionist or whatever with my gut, like, it's frustration. And we do want all those things as fast as we can. And I think we're just in this society where we don't actually want to get to the root cause for the longevity of it, being, again, in fitness, let's get to the finish line as fast as we can. I don't give a shit what I have to climb over, scratch through, dig through, and whatever. I want to get there as fast as I can, but you're not willing to, get to, if you're running the race and in the middle of the road, there's a hole. You're not willing to stay there and figure out why the hole was created, patch up that hole before you continue on. So the next time you go through that, there's no hole anymore. There's no bump anymore. So Joseph Ramirez, I'm just here for the enhanced access to the V. Glad you're here. Base show for money. Yep. This is Jake Chapman. It's one of our really, really good friends. Same reason they don't discuss nutrition. They don't know. They're general practitioners. I mean, going to that point, I went, and this was when we first started working together. So we've known each other for a very long time, but when we first started working together and you really helped me with my nutrition, I went to my doctor and I asked for a gut test, and she said, you don't need it. And I said, but I'm bloated all the time and I just don't feel comfortable all the time. And food that's not supposed to make me feel this way is making me feel this way. I would really like a gut test. And she came back with a little stack of papers and was like, eat this. And I said, I read two lines on it. And I'm like, this is exactly how I eat. And she's like, just continue to eat like that and you'll be fine. And I'm like, I've been eating like this forever and I'm not fine. And it's like they don't want to talk about nutrition. And one of the big things that, we talk about a lot, and excuse me, our friend Jake talks about a lot, is nutrition. It's the bottom of the pyramid. The most important thing is nutrition. It doesn't matter how much you work out. If your nutrition is not there, it's not going to be able to support everything. Why do you think they don't really talk about nutrition that much?
One, it's not necessarily required in med school, to my knowledge. I think things are changing, but I think they get like one course on nutrition. And it's also, I don't know, sometimes I think on our end, it's almost naive to think that they we almost expect our doctor to know everything.
Yeah.
No one can know everything, right? Like that's what a nutritionist is for, who studies nutrition, right? So oftentimes I feel like we go to them expecting them to have all these answers, and they also necessarily shouldn't. Like they can't study everything and know everything and tell it to you.
Right.
So, going to someone that specializes is really helpful. So I think that's one thing, is that they also don't have the necessary education that I think they should, but also might pretend that they do. Because I feel like for that, right, she was just like, oh, here, let me get you some papers and give this to you.
Yeah.
It's like,
but I can Google that too. That for me felt more like ask the receptionist to Google, bloating, blah, 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 blah. And how do you fix that? I could Google that myself, but going to a doctor and asking them like, hey, can you help me with something? And they're like, no.
And I think too, there's a difference, my opinion, my experience, there's a very big difference between conventional medicine and then holistic health.
Yes. Talk to us about that. It's like, everybody, holistic, it goes too far, but in some cases it's beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, holistic, you're looking at the whole body, how things interact with each other. It's really difficult for me to have conversations about one thing. So I'm like, wait, there's all these pieces that go together, and it's really hard to have a conversation without addressing so many things. Where conventional medicine, my experience, it's very specific.
Like so one-sided almost, you mean? Like
almost like, I guess in the sense that the thought processes are very different, where it's like, they're not necessarily going to look at you as a whole. They're going to specialize, right? That's why there's rheumatoid, and that's why there's endo, and that's why there's gastric. And again, those specialties are great because they're very well versed in that specialty. But I feel like the communication is very, very lost between everyone. And that's why you get people, well, my gastroenterologist said this, and my endocrinologist said this, and my rheumatologist said this. And like, it's very, he said, who said, she said, we said, like, what?
There's no common ground, right? And there's nothing that's similar. It's literally like this one's over here and this one's over here and that one's up there, but there's no, nothing crosses.
Yeah.
So of course it's super confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing. It's frustrating. It's oftentimes to be over medicated, and okay, you took this medication, so now I have to take this medication to combat this side effect. And it's hope no one takes this the wrong way, but like superficial in the thought process that, again, we're just kind of like addressing the symptom. We're not getting holistic and actually getting deeper to like what's going on. Like, what is the root cause? Why are these things happening? There's a reason why X, Y, and Z are off. But again, it's easier just to kind of mask it with a medication. And again, sometimes it's necessary. I get it. I know someone put it in the comments that, she wasn't sure about birth control. Yeah, like I get it. Sometimes it's absolutely necessary. Medical providers are lifesavers, literally.
Yeah. Oh, you meant this one with Joseph. Yeah. My daughter started birth control because her periods were so bad and painful. I was against it at first, but now I see what a difference it makes for her. Yeah. Yep.
And still, even to that point, be on birth control and do what needs to do for her. And I would still suggest trying to dig for the root cause of what's going on as much as you can, because when you're on birth control, you can't test certain things because they're synthetic. But there are still other things that you can still, lifestyle-wise, stress-wise, nutrient-wise, where you can still kind of dive into and optimize to hopefully, if you do end up getting off of birth control, maybe your periods are better or whatever the, said issue is. But overall, I just think they're two different. I just think that they're two different thought processes. One is like the superficial, let me solve your problem now. And the other one is much more looking at the whole body, digging deeper. Might take longer, but you're going to long-term kind of solve the issues. And I don't even remember what the original question is or where we got here, but that's kind of my thought process with like the
base show, Jake Chapman, they get hardly any training on anything. They learn the fastest way to get rid of you. A pill is that for many issues. And I think that that's very much what you're talking about, where it isn't a, okay, if you need this, going back to what Joseph was saying, like his daughter just needed it to support the pain and the difficulties that she was having with her period. But you're also saying that there's ways to support that over here too. It doesn't have to be we're against each other. Let's support each other, where it's not taken away from the fact of if you need those quick fixes, if you need those pills to help you, in that instant, okay, fine. But can we support you here too? Can you support the body in the ways that you can so that, for you 20 years down the line, all of a sudden you're not smacked in the face with a miscarriage and being like, what do you mean there's something wrong with my body? And to the extreme that there was something going on with your body, can we meet somewhere in the middle where people don't have to go through such a big, like, slap in the face?
And it's annoying. It's frustrating because I remember working with a nutrition client and she was having some hormonal things going on. She had some bloating issues too. She was in her I think she was in her early 50s at the time we were working together because she still had a period. And I remember telling her, hey, can you, try going to your doctor, ask for this test on this day of your cycle. And she was like, okay, cool. But can you tell me what day 1 of my cycle is? And I was like, oh, we don't even know this. And I'm not saying this to bash her, to be like, oh, you're stupid. You're not. You were never freaking taught, right? But it's like, it's so crazy to me and frustrating that in our 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, doesn't freaking matter how old you are, like we're learning things that we should have learned literally in junior high.
Yes.
That would have drastically subsided, if not eliminated, so many complaints that I hear women have between headaches, period issues, bloating, hair falling out, no sex drive, constantly tired, brain fog, anxiety, depression, freaking name it. Like,
yeah,
there's just so many things, and I love hearing this, but also I feel sad, after working with someone, they're like, I feel so much better. Like, I wish I knew this stuff in my 20s. I would have. I love that you learned it now.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really wish you learned it when you were earlier so you didn't have to suffer for decades for some women.
Right.
Not feeling better.
Well, I only learned about my cycle and I wouldn't even say that I really understand my cycle because I was so fixated on the end result, which was getting pregnant. So I really didn't enjoy the journey. I really didn't embrace the journey and try to learn as much as I possibly could because I just wanted the end result. I wanted to get pregnant and I was having a difficult time getting pregnant. And all I could do at that time was blame myself. It's my body. It's broken. It's not going to work. And so again, when the doctor just was like, we'll do this and try this and take this. And I was like, anything, please. I just want to get pregnant. But I started to learn like, what's day 1? And I needed to know what day 1 was and the importance of day 1 because, then it was day 3 or day 4, which was when I would be inseminated in that cycle. And then I would have to wait, like, I think taking a P test, I think was 2 weeks, but I could get a blood test. When I finally got to the specialist, I could take a blood test within a week because it doesn't like show up or, whatever it was. And I might get the timeline off because it's been a long time, but like, I knew that enough because I was like, okay, day 1. Now we're scheduling day 3 or day 4, whenever the cycle is, I'm going to be inseminated. But I really wasn't learning about myself. I just was so fixated on the end result. And I've said this to you too. Like, I wish that you and I had connected professionally in this way much sooner because it's possible that a couple nutritional changes, a couple gut changes could have made it easier for me to not suffer as long as I did to not get pregnant, and then having to go through so many rounds of Clomid to try to get pregnant. And then I was on Zofran when I was pregnant because I could not keep, and my body was so depleted. And then here comes Garrett, and he's setting up shop, and it completely tore my entire, I was so sick, and I had to take that stuff just to be able to get water in my system and eat food and whatever. But like, I also wish too that I had that information so that, and I'm not saying that anything necessarily would have changed. If I still needed to be on medicine, I still needed to be on medicine. And I think I still would have needed the Clomid to help within the process of IUI. I'm not saying that it was going to necessarily change the needing of the medicine, but more information I think would have been helpful to kind of navigate that process.
Absolutely. I talk to women, every single day that are going through miscarriages and struggling to get pregnant and stuff like that. And I feel like I sound like a broken record because I'm like, at the end of the day, the foundational pillars of health still matter. Like, even if you have the medication, guess what? Your foundational pillars of health still need to be optimized in order for the medication to do what it needs to do. Right? And so many times, people think IVF is like a 100% guarantee. It's not. You still have to optimize your body for the best chances of IVF to happen. And as you were talking too, I was thinking, I didn't learn about cycle syncing until after my second miscarriage again. And whether you want to get pregnant or not, your period, so many women complain about their period, right? Or complain about, oh, I'm so hormonal. And sure, there are times when it can be really annoying. But I almost get like sad because I missed out because I had birth control, again, which is synthetic and a fake period. That once you learn about how your hormones fluctuate, I'm almost bummed that I missed out on the beautifulness that hormones can bring to you, right? Like feeling during that ovulation, like that high and that like just sexualness and like, I'm awesome and I'm beautiful and you're magnetized. And then that like, before you get your period, where you're like more reserved and you want to reflect and you want to read and you want to journal and you want to, like, if we understand the nuances of your hormones, I think it can be a really beautiful journey and you can enjoy those parts more, right? And, oh, this is when I want to go out and date and meet people or network or take on a project. And this is when I really want to chill and be reserved. But because we don't know that very frequently, we get frustrated with the symptoms that we have.
Yeah.
Or why are we so tired? I was just feeling so good 2 weeks ago. Why am I so like down in the dumps and depressed now? Why do I have more cravings and I'm a bottomless pit? Again, in the fitness and nutrition world, I would hear that all the time. Women saying, I can't stop eating. What's wrong with me? I'm just going to restrict more because I want to lose weight. And it's like, guess what? Your hormones are fluctuating right now because you're about to get your period. And that's completely normal.
And you need to eat.
And you need to eat. And there are certain things that you can eat and right, but we don't know.
Right.
And even just frustration wise, I had a client, this was years and years ago. She really wanted to increase her deadlift. And she had a PR with me, during one of our sessions. And then she was through the roof, so excited. 2 weeks later, she's on that same day again in her program. And she could barely lift her warm-up set. She's like, this feels like 1,000 pounds. It was probably like 50 pounds less than what her PR
I know
was.
those feelings. Oh my gosh.
So she's beating herself up.
Yes.
She's like, what the heck? 2 weeks ago, I was lifting 50 pounds heavier. It felt light as a feather. And now I can't pick up my warm-up set. So she's beating herself up. She thinks she's getting weaker. She thinks that something's wrong with her. She thinks she needs to, go do more or eat less, whatever it is. So I stopped her and I said, by any chance, do you have your period? She goes, yeah. I was like, that's why you can't pick up. That's why you can't pick up the weight. You're good. This is totally normal. She's like, wait, what? And guess what? 2 weeks later, she was back to the same weight of her PR. And it's like, if we understand, that's a very specific instance, but hopefully you can take that
and widen the perspective. Yeah,
widen the perspective and apply it. Like, if we understood that, it would have such a different perspective shift for us. We would be so much less, I feel like, anxious and depressed. We would have so much of a more better understanding. We would have less frustration with so many things because we're like, oh, that makes exact sense for where my body is or what I'm going through, where my hormones are. So I mean that in and of itself.
And I've never heard any woman say that there's beauty in a hormonal shift that we experience. We've never heard that. We have always
it's not talked about in that way, right?
Well, because women are hormonal. Yeah. We are just hormonal beings, and that has always been coming from a negative place. Oh, she's just fucking hormonal. Women are just emotional and hormonal and whatever, but we don't actually know about our hormones. So we're just going based off the symptoms, like you're saying. So my period has changed a lot. I get cramps now in ways that I haven't gotten cramps since I can remember. You know, even when I was trying to get pregnant, even in the dance world, and when I first started getting it, like, I don't remember having cramps the way that I do. And what do I say? Oh, I'm just getting older. I'm getting headaches now. My period cramps are worse. You know, I used to be a 3-day period. I used to get my period. That first day, maybe day and a half, would be super heavy. It would my bleeding would kind of subside a little bit and slow down at the end of the second day. And then by the third day, by that night, you know, it's that like brown, different coloration kind of discharge that we're getting at the end of our period. And I was a 3-day period. That's what I was. And then trying to have G with all the medicine increase and whatever, it really started to turn almost irregular because I was on all the Clomid and trying to get pregnant and all this type of stuff. But now it's a painful, crampy, annoying. Sometimes I get migraines. And I've said that to you. I'm like, girl, my fucking period is changing. And it's really frustrating. But our hormones are going to change for many different reasons, right? Our age is part of that. You know, what our body's going through is part of that. Our gut health is part of that, right? So how do you start having these conversations with women about learning more information about your own personal hormones and how they react within your own body, not just general of like women are just fucking hormonal?
Yeah. I mean, I think the perspective shift is huge. I think it is really, really huge.
Megan, we are just the sweetest hormonal beings. Yes, we are. We are.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And I know it can be really difficult when people are in pain to like shift your perspective. Right? I understand that. It sucks to be in pain. It's frustrated to be in pain, especially if you're not getting help or answers. And I think there's a cool opportunity to dig deeper and to kind of figure out like, hey, this isn't necessarily normal. Things have shifted. Good news, there's something that can be done about it. I just might not know what it is yet. And that's where it can be kind of frustrating because it is a lot of digging. It's a lot of doing your own research. It's a lot of asking questions. And sometimes we don't even know where to start with any of that. I do think that the internet is a beautiful thing in that regards, and social media, because there's so many things now out there, which can be overwhelming of kind of how to filter that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's a really cool opportunity for us to learn about our bodies when we don't feel good.
Yeah.
Because that's really when we, I guess, need it the most, if you will. Like those where a lot of stories come from, right? It's like people don't know anything about their bodies until something happens to their health. And once something happens to their health, right, then you're taking this deep dive of like, what's going on? And I by no means ever wish a miscarriage on anyone. And I think my miscarriages happened for a reason.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't go through those 2 miscarriages and take a massive deep dive into my health, I would not have learned any of the stuff about my personal body if I didn't kind of get forced to take that deep dive. And I'm incredibly grateful for that because now I understand my body so much better. I can advocate for myself so much better. I have less frustration because I know now tools of what to implement when things are off or I don't feel good. And I can, hopefully now share that with other women.
Yeah.
Of like, and I do think testing, if you haven't ever done any testing on yourself, I think it's really, really important to do it at least once a year, like a full everything, a thyroid full panel, liver full panel, gut testing, stool analysis, your hormonal level, order some Dutch tests. And again, frustrating because your conventional medicine doctor might not even agree with that or know how to run some of the things. So again, going kind of maybe to like holistic health route might be an option. I do think stuff is a little bit more accessible in, I guess, like bigger cities. Now I'm comparing like New York to where we are in Florida. There's so many options in Florida, not so many in New York, which is frustrating.
What do you mean? Like just being able to reach people and talk to
Yeah,
people?
there's so many more clinics, so many more health and holistic clinics that are popping up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You would think it would be opposite, and not to get like political or anything like that, but New York is a blue state and whatever, and you would think that they would kind of be opposite, that they would have more available in New York than in Florida.
Maybe like.
Well, you're breaking up on me, girl. Kind of lost you for a second.
Yeah,
there you go.
Breaking up a little bit.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like maybe New York City, at least not where we're originally from, right? Hopefully one day. But yeah, there's a lot more like clinics that are popping up. But the unfortunate part is a lot of it is out of pocket. So it's not necessarily
that was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's not necessarily financially accessible for a lot of people, which is really frustrating because there's lots of things that you can do and test. I think the data is really important, and understanding the data, then being able to kind of like compare it year over year without necessarily getting obsessive over it. But I think it's really eye-opening to kind of have data to support how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because so many women feel like, oh, I'm crazy for feeling this way, or I've been told there's nothing wrong with me. And it's like, okay, actually see something, be like, okay, this is how I'm actually feeling. That's almost validating to see it.
Yeah. And it's very unfortunate that there is still this battle for women's health. Oh, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Okay. It's frustrating because there is this constant battle for women's health, and everything is so much out of pocket, and you do have to really try to find people that are prime in their craft. I reach out to you a lot about, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through and whatever. And even just hey, have you tried this? Even something small, simple, whatever. And one of the big things, it might be small to someone else, but like one of the big things I learned from you was don't have coffee on an empty stomach. And I feel like for me, that's been game changer for me. And we don't think about little things like that can have a long-term positive effect on how you're feeling. So before, my bloat used to happen the minute that I would wake up. Now I can get through, a good portion of my morning. And now I experience more of my bloat like in the afternoon and nighttime. And now we're navigating what that looks like and how I can work with that. But little things like that, it's sad to know that you can't even just ask your doctor for something like that. You can't even just, and to go in and so many people advocate for like year testing. But the only testing that I think is covered under insurance or that people are advocating for is like pap smears and mammograms, and not saying that that's not important, but that's not the only part of women's health. There's so many more things that we need for women's health.
Yep. And I wish, I don't know if things will ever change, because I feel like I said earlier, things are so broken that I don't know how it's ever going to get fixed unless it's burned to the ground and rebuilt. And I don't know that that's ever going to happen. So in the meantime, right, we have to kind of advocate for ourselves and what can we get done and what can we ask for and where can we maybe switch things in our life or providers or whatever to be more in alignment with, what our goals are and what we're looking for and what we're asking for.
Hello, Heidi. Oh, I always do coffee on empty stomach. Does adding coconut oil help?
It can. Yep. So actually, I have a decaf coffee, but I have collagen in here. But yeah, adding some sort of fat or protein to your coffee, if you're drinking it on an empty stomach, is super, super helpful to blunt the cortisol increase. So yeah, coconut oil, MCT oil, ghee, collagen, protein powder, something like that is great. And it's just going to add to your overall, if it's collagen or protein powder, add to your overall protein goal for the day, which is always really helpful because most women are deficient in protein as well.
Yes. Do you, this whole conversation of protein powders, how often should we have protein powders? And what are some good options of protein powders? Because I feel like when we have that conversation of like, and I deal with this with my clients too, men and women, it's like, a good way to get some more protein in your body is through a shake and whatever. But then they're like, well, I had, just a shake today, and they kind of start to stay away from real food. And I'm like, no, it's a supplement for additional protein. Like lean protein is still the best way to get protein, but how often should you, or not should, how often is a good amount to have protein powder? And what are your favorite kind of protein powders that you feel like are best for the gut, the body, that kind of stuff?
Yep. So at the end of the day, protein powder is still processed, right? Protein powder doesn't grow in the grass, grow in trees. So it's still processed. However, I do think that it can be, just like you said, very supplemental to your nutrition, especially if you're really, really, really struggling to increase your protein consumption. I am always a massive advocate of whole food first. Like you said, Colleen, I want you to have your lean meats, or if you're a vegetarian, coming from vegetarian plant sources, whatever, like that comes first. Once a day, honestly, I don't mind doing a protein powder, maybe once every other day. But the quality of it's going to be really important too. So if you're getting them from like Walmart or a grocery store, sorry to break it to you, it probably is really crappy quality with a lot of additives, preservatives, added sugars. A lot of them are going to make you bloat. I get that a lot from people. Either makes them bloat or just gives them like gas and digestive issues too. A lot of it's because there's some processed stuff in it.
Yep.
So you do want to make sure that it is a good quality, that you check the ingredients and try to, again, always have kind of like minimal ingredients. If you can get Vital Proteins, a good brand, Ancient Nutrition, Equip, Needed. Those are kind of some off the top of my head that are good quality as well. And then I saw Megan said, I don't know if Colleen's here.
Yep, I'm here.
Good, okay. I know Megan said I can't find a collagen that doesn't make my drink chunky. 2 brands I recommend: Vital Proteins for collagen, as well as PE Science are 2 good brands that are like smooth, mix really well.
Yep.
I love them. I add them to coffees. I bake with them, all types of stuff too.
Vital I use in my coffee too. I always drink that with coffee. Joseph, I stopped taking protein shakes. Huh?
No, someone said I use Vital Protein, but I haven't heard of Bob's.
Joseph, I stopped taking protein shakes because of all the additives. Even the healthiest ones have processed crap. Yeah, that's what she was just explaining. And Chick, what's up, girl? Liquid collagen. Never heard liquid collagen before, but now it is Shakely, so I have no idea. Beef protein isolate otherwise. Interesting. Oh, this is a good question. Any daily foods to boost testosterone?
Yeah, I mean, your lean meats are always going to be a really great place. Also going to help just to like boost testosterone. So red meats a couple times a week is a really great place to be. Lentils, your legumes, stuff like that is also going to be really great. Don't forget you can get iron as well from like spinach and green foods as well. All of that is going to kind of help just overall to boost testosterone. Maca powder, which is like a superfood type of powder. It's almost like a cacao, but a little earthier. That's great that you can like add to smoothies, stuff like that as well. But yeah, it's probably on my Instagram, like a list of foods
Yeah,
as
I put
well.
her Instagram in the description of this. And this is supposed to be about the vaginas, and here you come in talk about testosterone. That's fine. I'll allow it.
Yeah.
If you could
Yeah, hold up.
but for women, if you're struggling with bloating, we'll just talk about that because women experience that the most or whatever. Give us your top 3 tips to kind of help with that. That's natural, not really needing too much intervention, something that you could start tomorrow, tonight, that with time, might take time, but you will start to see some results. Our top 3.
Yep. So fermented foods, I think, are really underutilized when it comes to nutrition. Again, people, for the most part, nutrition wise, just undereat, like drastically undereat. So increasing fermented foods, so things like sauerkraut, kimchi, like fermented pickled foods, whatever, beets, onions, stuff like that is great to add in, because you want to have a prebiotic and a probiotic foods and or potentially supplements. So prebiotic are going to be, you can think of it like the food, the appetizer for the probiotic to eat so it functions. So if you don't have any prebiotic foods like garlic in your nutrition, for example, load up on garlic. There's also garlic supplements, but always contact a healthcare practitioner. Like garlic, for example, is going to be a food that a probiotic can consume so the probiotic can do its job. So many times people will just be like, oh, let me just take a probiotic, but they eat McDonald's for breakfast. Right? Let's just like be really
extreme
for a second as an example. The probiotic isn't going to do anything. You're literally wasting it because it doesn't have any prebiotic food to survive off of and to thrive. So that's why you can't just take a probiotic and be like, cool, I'm good, I can eat whatever I want. You still have to eat the rainbow, have your protein, have your vegetables, all of the stuff, so the probiotic can do its job. So maybe that's number 2. 1, eat fermented foods. 2, making sure you're having probiotic and prebiotic foods. I also have a post someplace on my Instagram that literally lists out both. And then 3, people are probably gonna be like, this is too easy. Chew your food. Chew your food.
It's not easy. It's not easy though.
No,
it's not.
I always used to do this with my nutrition clients. Time yourself. Like, get your phone out, timer, don't think about it, and eat your food at your normal pace. And then when you're done eating, stop the timer. And then at your next meal, set the timer for 20 minutes and then go eat your food, and take the full 20 minutes to eat your food. You're to be like, oh my God, I can't believe how slow this is. But that's like, your digestion starts in your mouth. It starts with chewing. It starts with the enzymes that break down, blah, 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 blah. It goes out to your gut. So the first thing that you're doing that's going to affect your bloating, your digestion, is the pace in which you are literally eating your food. So slow down, take smaller bites, small sips of water. I don't want you chugging water in between, small sips of water. And a lot of times that at least prevents, if not like really at least minimizes a lot of the bloating that a lot of my prior nutrition clients have dealt with before.
That is the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest thing to do, is to slow down and chew. And sometimes I catch myself, I'm like, oh, I ate that really fast. Shit. And then I feel it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah.
Especially if you're, a mom and you're running around, or you have a partner. Yeah. Like Ryan used to eat so fast, and I would catch myself like speeding up almost. Yeah. Like, for dinner, I'm like, oh my God, wait, So it's nice for everyone to do. You'll take more time at the dinner table, have a conversation, slow down from your crazy life that you have, try not to eat on the run, all that stuff. It has to be intentional.
Oh, I lost you for a second. Corey Leonard, you had one job probiotic. Yeah, well, not when it's paired with McDonald's. Oh, is she back? Can you hear me?
I'm back. Yep.
Okay. Heidi Krum, I feel like fermented foods actually make me blow. Has chick said start slow and low. And I feel like that is a very important tool or tip to have whenever you're changing from one. I mean, we can go extreme to extreme or just moving the needle a little bit. Again, we're going back to this, like, we're all impatient. So, and I've been guilty of this too. It's like, okay, I'm in it. I'm jumping in and I'm going to change everything. And that's not necessarily good for your body either. So when you do start working with clients, you do start working with women, this idea of low and slow and slowly introducing things into your body, slowly taking things out of your body and allowing everything to kind of neutralize itself seems like a no-brainer, but it's actually a lot harder than most of us think it is.
Yeah. Anytime, I start working with someone nutrition wise, I always talk about fiber because fiber is absolutely fantastic for digestion, for bloat, for just GI, going to the bathroom, regularity, all that stuff. And it keeps you full longer. But if you are someone that eats little fiber and then, like you said, you're overhauling everything because you started this new diet or whatever, and you have, vegetables at every single meal, you're not used to that, you're probably going to have more GI symptoms than you did before because you went from 0 to 60.
Yep.
So with fiber specifically, first I would recommend taking like 3-4 days and just documenting your food and where you're at with your fiber. Again, most women are going to be low in fiber. They're probably at like 10, 15 grams. I went to some place at like 25, 30, even 35 grams fiber. But don't do it overnight because you're going to have some of those GI symptoms or some of those bloating symptoms. So slowly incrementing it, over the course of a couple days, even a couple weeks to kind of get to the amount that I want you at, you're going to feel a little bit better. And two, there might be some GI stuff going on. There might be some overgrowth. If you're having more bloating with foods, how you cook your foods can make a difference. Types of food. So if it's like more cruciferous, you might have more of a struggle. So try cooking things a little bit differently. If you're having more bloat, do all those other things too that we talked about, but you can slowly implement them.
Yeah. Fiber was always the most difficult one for me too. Like I wasn't having that much fiber. And then when we started working together, it was like, oh, here's all the fiber. And I was like, okay, no, I don't feel good. I don't feel good at all. We're going to slow this down. We're going to slow this down. Well, I want to say thank you so much. This was so much fun. This will be one of many. I would love to invite you to come back on and talk. I mean, there's when we confirmed that we were going to do this, I was like, oh my God, where do I start? There's so many conversations that you and I can have about being women and moms and the dance world and spouses and all type of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, where are we going to start? And I was like, you know what? Christina and I always just chat and we allow the conversation to go where it's going to go. And so this will be one of many conversations with you. So thank you guys for being here and hanging out with us. Christina, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully, you learn something, some takeaway. And yeah, there's so many conversations that need to be had. So I hope, we can obviously connect. And I know you're going to bring on many other awesome people to continue this conversation that's so needed.
Yeah, it was so good. So good. All right. Christina, hang out with, don't go anywhere yet. Guys, thank you so much. The CrossFit Games are coming in a couple days. We're very excited. We're going to see you guys up there. Cannot wait to meet some of you guys in person. And if you guys have any questions for Christina, again, I put her Instagram in the description below. So you guys can check that out, ask her questions. She's amazing. And we will talk to you guys again soon. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.